Hello, hello, my beautiful souls. Welcome to the intuitive card reading for the month of November 2025. You guys know what to do. Please like this video. Please share this video with anybody that needs to hear the energies and the influences of the week. What else? Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. And what else? I think that's it. Oh yeah, same two decks. Shuffled. I believe they're in different order. If not, this is the order that feels best. And I think that's it, guys. Comments down below. Let's just jump right into it. What does November have in store for us? All right, what do we need? Okay, Adonis upside down in the shadow, pursues pleasure to the detriment of health, indulgences. Okay, so this is about, oh, but it's under need. Okay, so this is interesting. Okay, right off the bat. So Adonis is always about like pleasure seeking, doing things that are fun, that are joyful, that seek fulfillment, experience life, make you feel alive, like different things like that, travel, food, etc. So it's in the shadow, but it's under need. So basically it's saying that maybe we might be overdoing these things, but we kind of need to be overdoing these things, okay? This is a good example of like sometimes when it's in the shadow, it's not necessarily a negative thing, okay? Maybe sometimes, but not always. So this is basically saying like if you're overindulging this week, if you're overdoing it in some way, shape, or form in eating too much, traveling too much, like whatever it actually is, it's almost like our soul, like I read from a soul level, so it's basically saying like we need this for our soul. Our soul needs this. So one thing I want to say is like don't beat yourself up so much about it, right? If you kind of go crazy and kind of, maybe you haven't traveled in like so many years and this month gives you the opportunity and you just go ahead and do it, right? It's kind of like your soul's like it's almost like being let out of a cage and kind of like it's like spirit is kind of giving you permission to kind of like go crazy. Obviously use your own intuition, right? And you find something, you find the balance on your own. I don't want anybody to come back next week and be like, you told me to overeat and or overdrink and I ended up in the hospital. I don't know, whatever it actually ends up being, I'm not responsible for your choices. So this is saying though, if you kind of overdo it, do not spend time beating yourself up. It's almost like you were like let out of a cage. You actually have the opportunity to do some of these things in an overindulgent way. So, go for it is like the best thing I can kind of say. But again, you're responsible for your own choices. Wow, that's that energy coming first thing out of the gate is very interesting. So let's see what else is in store for us. All right, we have truth be told. Okay, action needed. So this is about telling the truth. This is about being authentic. This is about being genuine. This is actually about speaking your truth as well. So all of those things, basically, we need to do. We need to tell the truth about something. We need to stop lying to ourselves is another way to say this, okay? So that's the action we need to take. So this is really about like radical honesty. Like we need to really be honest about what's been going on, what we really want, what's going on with our relationships, what's going on at work. This definitely feels like a month of doing that. And then not only clarifying that, taking action on it because it's under the action needed card. Okay, so this is a card of action. So whatever we are, completely radically honest with ourselves about, we go ahead and take action on it. So maybe if we're really honest with ourselves about really hating our jobs, you might quit it. Like that's the kind of energy that's like that's coming from this is like you're it's almost like you're tired of living a lie. And I tell you guys, if it's minor energy or major energy, feels major. Okay, and so does kind of that first energy there with that Adonis in the shadow. So we're coming out with a bang here in November. All right, so this is like whatever, I will say this, whatever falls off this month, it was not meant for you because we're finally being honest with ourselves and what we want. So I'm just throwing that out there. This is a really powerful card. So let's keep going, guys. Whew. What a month so far. We only have 2 cards. All right, we have issue. We have the Messiah in the shadow. This one has been coming up a lot. exaggerated belief that you are the only means through which a cause can succeed. Okay, so this is about saying, like, I'm the only one that can do this. I'm the only one that can, X, X, Y, or Z, like fill in the blanks, whatever it actually is. And it's an issue. So this kind of ties into, like, the feeling of, like, if you feel like you're the only one that can do it, you need to kind of get over yourself in that way. Like, you need to kind of move past the ego in that way, right? And so maybe I'll give an example because this one's a little confusing. Maybe you feel like you're the only one at work that can do this particular role or this particular job, and maybe you've been working overtime or not letting anybody help you or something along those lines, and you feel like you're the only one that can do it. You're the only, it's the only way that your team can, succeed. And it's really, at the end of the day, it kind of is asking us to look at our self-importance, and also, looking at the support systems we have around us, and realizing that we can't do it all the time, but also, like, it feels like it's coming from an egoic place of, like, I can do it, I can do it alone, I'm the only one that can do this, like, etc., etc. So we need to kind of, like, put that aside, but we're definitely having issues putting that aside, okay? That's why it's under issue. So very interesting one, and it's come up a lot. Sometimes I think, I can't remember because my memory is not great, but I definitely feel it came up in maybe the weekly, which meshed into November. So that would make sense, that energy is there. But I think it was in the light, and it was somewhere else on the board here, on the spread. Okay, challenge, a leg up. Okay, so, I like this card, but I don't love it here in the challenge slot, because this is basically saying, this is a leg up is advantageous energy. So it's saying that our challenge is that we feel like we don't have an advantage. It feels like we're the underdog, right? This is definitely the vibe of an underdog. So we feel like we don't have a foot in the door. We don't have, an opportunity to do something, and it feels challenging. So maybe you get some clarity here in this radical honesty about, that you don't like your job and this is what you want to do and you want to go forward with it. You quit your job, and now it's like, okay, well, I don't have any, like, maybe you want to be an actor. You don't know anybody that works on movies or in TV or film or, in theater. So you're like, wait, I don't know anybody that does this. I have no ins, I have no connections, etc. So I definitely do feel like there's a challenge here in this area, maybe not career, but in an area where you feel like you want to move forward in, or you want to do something in, or again, it doesn't have to be career, but you just don't have those connections. You don't have those, you're starting from scratch and you're like the underdog, maybe you want to get into a really good school, but you don't have any, connections, like no one in your family ever went to an Ivy League school or the school that you want to go to or whatever. And it feels like, I have to be honest, guys, it almost feels like you're getting like this, maybe like, oh God, this feels like it's impossible. It's not impossible. Okay, if you remember the message on the last reading, and some of you guys commented, which thank you so much, that you're kind of going through it, right? And we have to keep going. And that was like the main message. I'm pretty sure I put it as the title of the video. So this is like, don't get discouraged too much. Just because you don't have connections doesn't mean that you can't get there, you can't get what you want, or you can't move forward, because you can. You have to be a little bit more scrappy than usual. Okay, so you got to think out of the box maybe a little bit, or even try to make those connections. But we'll see what comes out in the friend slot here, or anything else about like we'll see if a community card comes up or something. But yeah, it definitely does feel like we feel like the underdog, and we're not necessarily, we're not connected like we should be, or we would want to, or that would help us get ahead more. Yeah, that's very interesting there. Okay, change. We have King in the shadow, excessive feelings of entitlement, rulership without restraint. Okay, this is good because this is in the shadow, but it's under the change. So basically it's saying any feelings of being oppressed, by like a negative king, okay? And I'll bring it a little bit more down to earth in a second, but like in a more grounded way. But it's basically, the energy is like you're being ruled over in like more of like an authoritarian way, because that's what a king is, right? In the shadow is more of like a authentic, let's just say dictatorship way, authoritarian, there we go, I could say it, way, and now that's changing. So if you have a boss, a manager that feels like they are being a dictator to you, right? They're not leading you in a way that is healthy, and it's not, you feel oppressed in some way, or repressed in some way, or suppressed, I should say, in some way. And this is changing. This could also be for us. So if we feel like we were doing that to someone, we're definitely changing in that way, but I definitely do feel like it's coming outwards more so. So if you feel like somebody has been, ruling over you or controlling you in some way, shape, or form, and not leading you in the right spot, this could be changing. This could be a very controlling relationship. This could be your relationship with your parents. I definitely feel that way about my own mother, where I feel like she's very controlling, and maybe this means that it's changing this month, or and that requires, by the way, for you to be a little bit more empowered, more emboldened to kind of stand up to that ruler. So that could be it. So taking the example of like a boss, like it doesn't mean maybe that the boss gets fired, or you don't work under them anymore. You could be standing up to them more, is basically what this is saying. So I love that, especially for anybody that feels like they're kind of fighting with somebody that is more on a hierarchical type level, and they're not leading in a healthy way. So that is definitely changing, which I like. Okay, we have focus, round and round. Okay, so this is always cyclical energy. It could be routine. This could be doing the same thing over and over again. This could be habit forming. So basically it's saying put your priorities towards building routine, building more stability, building maybe even just like a different routine, or a different type of cycle, or changing up maybe your habits, or something along those lines. I definitely feel that could be it. Or just returning to an old habit, or returning to, getting back on the wagon with something, maybe exercise. But it's saying like, you got to get on with that stability a little bit more, and continue like a repetitive pattern of some kind. And I feel it's in a positive way. All right, reflect. We have artist in the shadow, using talent as an excuse to mistreat others, posing as the starving artist. Okay. Okay, so this is basically getting, so it's under reflect. So this is basically saying, reflecting on the shadow of the artist, meaning that maybe there's, speaking of suppressing, maybe you suppress like your inner creativity in some way, or you suppress like a creative part of yourself, or you feel like you're not good enough, you don't have enough confidence around it. Like something there is kind of like blocking your inner artist in a way. And so this is just asking you to kind of reflect on that and kind of look at that and see what's blocking that. Because, obviously this is saying this because, well, maybe not obvious to you, but the way that it's kind of coming through is like, and it usually comes through when, if you have blocks in this area, it's because Spirit wants us to be more creative. Spirit wants us to be more artistic and self-expressive, right? At the same time. So yeah, we kind of need to reflect on what has been blocking this part of ourselves. Like we've always heard of like writer's block, but like a creativity block of some kind. So yeah, definitely something to think about and reflect on. A good journal prompt. Responsibilities, we have poise. Okay, so this is like getting all your ducks in a row. This is like, ready to launch, ready to move forward. You've got everything in order. So it's under responsibility. So this is actually a good card to get under responsibility. So it just says that everything is, you're ready to go. So if you're, so it's under responsibility. So it's saying like, that's really good. That is part of your responsibilities. So it's almost saying like, you have done enough, like you have done your part is actually a better way to say it. You have done your part already. So if you have gotten your resume professionally done, and you sent your resume in, and you're really ready for a new job, and you have your interview clothes all set out, and basically you've done everything that's like under your control, right? Now you have to wait for somebody to call you for an interview, right? And so it's saying like you've done everything that you can do. You're ready to move on to, move forward, move to the future, move on to the future. But, there might be something that might be out of your control. So, but it's saying like you're all ready to go, like you're ready and set, and that's your only responsibilities. Your responsibilities are not to control the other person, or your responsibilities are not to be upset if nobody calls you for an interview. Obviously feel the way you want to feel, but like it's kind of saying like you've done all that you can do and you're ready, and just be ready for it, right? Because you're gonna get that interview, and you got to go interview. You got to make sure your clothes are ironed. You got to all of those things. So make sure you're, and you're prepping for the interview, right? You have to be ready, even if the opportunity is not in front of you or presenting itself, or you can't see what the next step is. You just need to be ready for it. Hopefully that makes sense. Money, finances, and career. We have rescuer in the shadow, assumes the rescued will reciprocate, keeps the rescue needy. Okay, so this is not in the light, it's in the shadow. So basically it's saying like we're waiting for somebody to come rescue us. We're kind of waiting for somebody to throw us the life raft, even though we're drowning, or we're not necessarily taking steps to go ahead and make sure we don't drown, that kind of thing. So I find it very interesting that it's next to the poise, because it's very conflicting energy. So this might say like, this might be encouraging you, especially because I know I gave the example of like getting ready for a job, doing everything to get ready for the job. And so you're being proactive in that way, right? And so maybe it's an extra boost there, but it definitely does feel like it's there's something, it might be reminding you here, like there might be something that you're missing, that maybe you're waiting for somebody to save you, or you're waiting for something. Like you have to get more proactive with your money, finances, and career. You got to, think outside the box. Try different avenues, be maybe a little bit flexible about where you apply, or maybe be a little bit more aggressive if you have your own business, and be more assertive, and not necessarily waiting for the clients to come to you. This is about taking action. It's about being proactive, not waiting around for something to happen. So that's what it's saying with money, finances, and career. So if you want to make more money, if you want to make more finances, if you want another job or a better job or a promotion, and if you want to take on more clients, if you're an entrepreneur, whatever it is, or make more money or whatever, you have to take actions this month. That's what Spirit is saying here. We can't be waiting for things to happen or culminate. And if you are waiting for something, you have to, it's fine to just, while you're waiting for it, do something. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. But yeah, it's kind of saying be more proactive is summing that up, essentially. All right, what's the surprise here? Observer. Okay, so this is about not necessarily participating, being the observer, not taking action necessarily on something quite yet. So it's under surprise, so it's saying like you're a surprise observer. So, okay. What's a good example for this? Let me think on my feet here. So maybe it surprises you that you go out on the weekend, and a friend of yours wants you to go to this is probably the worst example. I'm thinking on the fly. You go and you watch a live band play, and you're really enamored and impressed with this band, and all of a sudden you feel like I could play guitar. I feel like I could play in a band. I feel like I want to try this. I feel like I should be doing this, or maybe I kind of am curious about it. This is basically saying don't, and this is especially for anybody that is impulsive, don't go to the next day and go to the store and buy a very expensive guitar, sign up for very expensive guitar lessons, etc., okay? This is saying, like, don't go from, like, 0 to 60 and try to do too much when you should really just be observing it a little bit more, okay? And that means more of, like, instead, possibly you can, go on YouTube and look up, so you want to play the guitar for, beginning guitar player. Maybe then that night you also go and you see another band then you call a friend that plays guitar, and you talk to them. This is basically saying, I know that sounds like that you're also taking action, but it's saying like don't do too much, right? Just be a little bit more of like the observer, and maybe not necessarily jump right into something. Like it's basically saying like you gotta take a breath and observe the craft, observe, in this instance, this is observe the skill, observe the craft, before diving headfirst into it, right? So another way to say this is like, don't be impulsive, observe a little bit more and make sure this is something that you want to go forward with, or something you want to do, or something you want to commit to. Is, we've heard that word commit in the last several readings, I would say. So this is just, it's saying just, be the observer for now, okay? Don't necessarily make a plan to get it done, spend so much money on guitar lessons and all that stuff. So, and it's under surprise, because I think it comes out of surprise, and I think it could possibly be something that surprises you, right? And so this might be connected to the Hadanis, because it's almost like another area where it could be like conflicting energy, because the Hadanis is saying like you're going overboard with something that makes you feel pleasure, that feels good to you, food, drinking, anything that you kind of indulge in. So this is kind of saying like don't repeat that type of energy with something that you just discover, okay, that you have just discovered. It's not going to fare well, I feel. And it's something that you have to slowly get used to the idea of, think about, see it for what it is, like that kind of thing. Hopefully that makes sense, and I spent a lot of time on that, but don't overindulge in guitar lessons, is what I'm trying to say. Or again, in anything that impresses you, or surprises you, because sometimes I feel like if we have like nothing going on, or certain personality types, we could feel like when something like sparks something in us, we want to kind of go like 180 miles per hour towards it. And this is saying don't do that. Don't be spontaneous. Don't go 1,000,000 miles per hour. Just observe for now to even see if you want to do it. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. It'd be very interesting balancing that out with the, Hadanis and the shadow. So anyway, let's move on. All right, friends, we have Upside Down Attic. Oh my goodness. More of this type of energy. So the shadow is compromises integrity and honesty, allows an addictive pattern to have authority over your inner spirit. Okay, so overindulging too much, right? Overindulging too much. But again, almost feels like it's something that we need to be doing. It feels like you need to be doing this. And then we have the surprise of the observer about, trying to do too much, right? And then we have the addict, which could be obsessive, or again, right in the title, addictive behavior. The fact that this is under friends makes me feel like, I don't want to say like, you can get like addicted to a person. I mean, I think love addiction is a real thing. So I know the romantic connection is right next to it, but this is more like a community or a friends group. You might just feel like you might fall into bad habits with a friend. This could be what this is saying here. Like if you have a friend that's addicted to something, this definitely might, be something that you have to deal with it in this month. It could be our own addictions kind of coming up, and our community and our friends can help us. It's important that you are around friends and community if something like this comes up. But this doesn't have to be as, it could be the very straightforward alcohol, gambling, it could be love addiction for sure. Maybe you become obsessed with someone, or, obsessed with gambling, do you do it in excess, which again, you very much can be because of the Hadanis and the observer, how the way that they came up. So definitely lean on your friends, lean on your community, but this could also mean, like I said, you might have friends that are going through it in some way, shape, or form. So definitely be there for them if you can. I definitely do feel like it might be like something that's going on with us for sure. But like Spirit is kind of saying like there's something that you can't get enough of out of community, out of friends. I'm just going to say this is really specific, and guys, put down below if this makes sense to anyone out there, because I'm very curious, but I'm almost kind of getting like in the way of like addiction and community, there might be something like cult-like going on here, which is, I know, very rare. You know, we see a lot of it on true crime and stuff, but almost like cult-like mentality type stuff going on here, which is interesting, especially since we have the king up there reversed in the shadow, and it is changing. So, you know, breaking free from a very controlling person, getting kind of vibes over here with the cult stuff. So yeah, just putting it out there. Watch out for anybody that anything, you know, in the community world, in your community, that might feel cult-like, or friends asking you to go somewhere, you know, something cult-like might be going on. So that could be another thing. I think that's, you know, I'm reading for the collective, so there's a lot of you guys out there. Probably a small percentage, but I would love if anybody chimed in and said, oh my God, this month somebody asked me to go with them to this, you know, XYZ, and it turns out it's a cult. I would be very interested to hear that. Okay, let's move on. Okay, this is very interesting stuff going on here. Okay, so we have romantic connection, we have communication. This is always good because it means positive communication usually comes through positively. It is this time. So really good communication with our significant others. If you're going on a date, you have really good communication. This includes you, you know, and reciprocal, you know, somebody's reciprocating good communication. So this also might be a sign to you guys if you want to, you know, speaking of the truth be told, radical honesty. If you want to tell your partner something, you know, you want to be honest about something, communicate it well, and I feel like you will. Because, again, we have the message in a bottle. So, you know, communication is everything in relationships. Okay, we have important, we have saboteur, highlight your fear of self-empowerment and the changes it would bring to your life. Okay, so this is about not you know, we hear saboteur when we hear like self-sabotage. This is about not sabotaging yourself. So you're doing good. And it's under important, so it's saying it's important not to sabotage yourself. So I like that, especially, you know, in the stuff that we kind of talked about there of possibly going on, you know, overindulging a little bit, right? It's important not to self-sabotage ourselves. So this to me feels like we stop ourselves before it goes way off the deep end, which is really good because really we got that energy right off the bat where I'm like, whoof, this is some strong energy. So I like that. So we're not necessarily sabotaging ourselves or sabotaging the things that are important to us. It's under important. So we're not going all the way off the deep end, which is good. Which is good. All right, health and wellness, we have imagine. Okay, so this is about visualizing. This is about looking towards the future. This is about planning big goals. So I love that. Can mean a few things under health and wellness. Maybe you're setting bigger wellness goals. Maybe you ran a 5K. Now you want to run a marathon. That's a bigger goal, right? Maybe you can finally visualize your life after going through chronic illness for, you know, 4+ years, okay? Maybe that's mine. Maybe that could resonate with me. Maybe, you know, you can start planning ahead, you know, or going on to the next thing. So maybe you've lost all the weight that you wanted on your weight loss journey, and now it's time to think about toning. And so it's a different goal. You know, think bigger, that kind of thing. So think bigger or go further is a good way to put it. So yeah, I love that for us. There's not too much more I can say there. Overall outcome, we have martyr in the shadow, addiction to self-pity. Oh, I don't love this, you know, energy right here. And we've gotten this before, I think, recently. And so, okay, so we're not, you know, we're feeling, the shadow and the martyr is always feeling bad for ourselves. wanting other people to feel bad for us, feeling bad for other people. So it's under overall outcome. So I don't love how the month ends. So it almost seems like we feel like we're feeling sorry for ourselves, could be feeling sorry for other people. And we kind of put ourselves in this place of, I'm just noticing the word addiction is in there again. So, oh goodness, what a month. So yeah, so we might be, that might be part of like the addiction stuff that I was like talking about, where we just might be feeling bad for people. And again, feeling bad for ourselves. There's not too much more I can say about martyrdom. I think it's like, I think people understand when it happens, and it's like harder to kind of like explain. Yeah, I think that's I don't know if I can further explain it, but it definitely feels like the end of the month we kind of fall into this archetype, and we, kind of feeling a little pessimistic and feeling bad for ourselves and that kind of thing. And this might be, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It might have something to do with the stuff I was talking about with overindulging, with addiction stuff. So some of that stuff might come up. If you're listening to this and you're like, well, I don't have any issues, this could be anything. This could be you spent too much time on the internet. You spend too much time doom scrolling, right? And you realize that towards the end of the month, and you don't really like that about yourself, right? And you kind of go into, a pessimistic slump, of, oh God, I hate myself. Why did I do that? Like that, that's kind of like the vibes. That's why it's not the greatest card to end the month with, but, we might not, we might do something during the month that makes us not feel great about ourselves, and we kept doing it and doing it and doing it, right? So all I can say is we're human, okay? And tying it back to that first card, it's under need. So like if you feel like you partied all month, right, that would fall into overindulgence. If you partied all month and maybe at the end of the month you have no money left in your bank account, and you start feeling sorry for yourself, and you're having a hard, you're barely making rent, and you partied all your money away, that would paint a picture of like what the energies are here. So that would be like a scenario. Are you a bad person, or are you a bad person because you did this? No. Okay, you needed it. Maybe you were in a really controlling relationship for so long and you weren't even allowed to go out or talk to another person. Okay, so that's why when we talk about like shadow stuff, like it's not always a negative thing. Don't look at ourselves as like quote unquote bad people. Like there's just no such thing. There's good people that do bad things, bad people that do good things. Okay, it's the yin to the yang. And I think that's like really important to understand this month. So please don't beat ourselves up too much. I know it's the beginning of the month, but towards the end, we might be feeling down on ourselves is all I have to say. But, give ourselves that self-love that we definitely need, because we're, you're only human, and that's all I have to say here. So that's how I'm going to end it, guys. Would love your comments down below. I recommend listening to this in the beginning of the month, the middle of the month, and the end of the month, and see how things transpire. And of course, let me know down below. I would love to hear it. All right, I've talked enough. Guys, have a wonderful month. Bye.